So, there's over 400 of you people now. I have no idea where you all came from, but, Drakengard! Boy, am I glad to be talking about this series again.
No, no, I don't want to die!
Anyways, before any of you comment asking, where's the Drakengard 2 video? You have to talk about Drakengard 2 before Drakengard 3. What do you mean there is no Drakengard 2? So yeah, Drakengard 3, the actual sequel to Drakengard 1, released on the PS3 in 2014. And guys, maybe you should have just held off a little bit, just a little bit. As I mentioned in my Near Replicant video, after 9/11 out of all things, Yoko Taro had a serious shift in his writing style. All the characters in the first Drakengard were pretty much all psychopaths with no rhyme or reason. But Yoko Taro came to realize that that isn't exactly a realistic way to look at these types of things. And while it doesn't justify anything, it's important to notice that when someone does something, regardless of how horrendous it is, they always have a reason behind it. And that's something Yoko Taro wanted to explore with his characters. So not only is the writing in this game far better, but the gameplay actually didn't make me want to kill myself. So before we talk about the story, I just want to talk about how much better this game feels to play. That is, at least if you're using an emulator. To address the big thing everyone talks about with this game, yes, it runs like absolute garbage on the PS3. And unfortunately, that's the only way you could legitimately play it. And I honestly don't understand why this is the case. It's not like the PS3 couldn't run it. It's not even that good looking of a game. It's just they didn't bother optimizing it at all, so it's always running at like 15 FPS. And that makes me sad because I think the core game is actually pretty fun. It's just you can't legitimately play it at a half-decent frame rate because they'll never port it to PS4 because nobody knows what the hell a Drakengard is! But for the sake of review, I played the game on an emulator so I could talk about the core experience without being bogged down by a frame rate. At its core, the game honestly isn't that much different from the first one. It's still pretty much a mindless hack and slash all the way through. Except while the first game had you mindlessly wandering around an empty field for 40 minutes, slowly hitting enemies one at a time, the shorter level length makes it way more tolerable, and the controls are way faster and more intuitive, making everything kinda satisfying to pull off. You're not going to be pulling off any LEGO Star Wars type combos, but similar to the Warriors games, it's really satisfying to just tear down hordes of enemies. You even have this really cool super form that drains some of your health but allows you to tear through enemies and fly through the stage. However, if I had to bring up one downside, they'll have some platforming from time to time, and the game directly acknowledges that these platforming segments are boring, but they still include them so it isn't funny. You're literally just saying a flaw in the game without fixing it. Fuck you, Yoko Taro!
You've gotta be kidding me. More jumping? Who's the asshole who designed this place anyway?
This time I actually think the dragon gameplay is the worst of the two. While the first game had you flying around an open map shooting down enemies, this kinda just puts you on an on-rails segment where you spam the shoot button. While the openness of the first game made the ground missions feel boring, I think they actually benefited the dragon missions more. It made me feel like the Drakengard. The game will sometimes have you go around in an open area and destroy towers or whatever, but honestly these segments aren't that fun. The controls just kind of feel clunky the whole time. But with all that said, if you could somehow get a stable frame rate while playing this game, I think it's worth checking out. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think this game has absolutely mind-blowing 10 out of 10 gameplay, but I think it's good enough to back up the amazing story it has going on. Since the technical sequel of Drakengard is Nair and not this game, Drakengard 3 is actually a prequel to the original game. I think a prequel to Drakengard is actually a pretty solid idea. There were so many moments playing that game where I just had no idea what was going on because they didn't really bother explaining many aspects of the world. So getting a prequel that actually explains these things, yeah, I'm pretty much down with that. And thankfully it doesn't disappoint. The story follows this girl named Zero, who before the game hasn't exactly had the most fun life. She's implied to have suffered constant mental, physical, and sexual abuse throughout her entire life, much like Hitoshi-san. As a result of this abuse, she grew to become a very cold, bitter person, who doesn't really give a shit about the world or its people. Unfortunately for her though, she'd soon have to carry the weight of the world as she becomes bonded with a parasite simply known as the Flower. Much like how Kaim and Angelus crashed into the Nair world, there was actually something similar that happened in the Drakengard world. Midgard was actually a pretty chill place until one day an entire fucking city came from the sky. And no, there is no explanation behind any of this, we're just supposed to accept a giant city fell from the sky. This city soon became known as the Old World, and the Old World is said to be the origin of all magic within this universe. The flower that bonded with Zero is also said to be a creature from the Old World. And after Zero bonded herself with this flower, she became something known as an intoner. Intoners are godlike beings who are able to shape the world around them through the power of song. So basically Steven Universe.
All I wanna do is see a woman's vagina, a naked woman's vagina. All I wanna be is someone who gets to see it vagina.
The Queen Beast from Drakengard 1 is actually said to be an intoner, and that's how she was able to warp her, Kaim, and Angelus into Tokyo at the end of Drakengard 1. However, much like most parasitic creatures like Venom from Venom Let There Be Carnage, and the flower can't actually talk or anything like Venom, but Zero just knows it's trying to put an end to all of humanity. And if you're anything like me past 9 PM, you'd immediately think, I gotta kill myself. And yeah, that's exactly what Zero tries. And yeah, keyword there is tries. It turns out this flower made her too powerful to kill herself. But even though her attempt failed, the flower still wasn't willing to take any chances. And so the flower uses Zero to create 5 new intoners that it can take control of in case Zero ends up dying. These 5 new intoners are called 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 respectively. And what's cool is not only did each one inherit one of her powers, but each one also inherited a different aspect of her personality. 1 has a sense of justice, 2 starts off as affectionate but gradually loses herself, 3 is cold and apathetic, 4 is stuck up and has a superiority complex, and 5 is really fucking horny.
Back then, you were so strong it made my thighs ache. If you don't shut up, I'm gonna stab my eardrums with a fork.
The thing is with these 5 intoners is they're actually not terrible people.
I missed you so, Zero. I was so thrilled you came to see me. Truth be told, I almost came as well. That's nice.
Okay, maybe they're mildly terrible. But they literally went and established peace across the world and viewed Zero as an older sister to them, genuinely caring for her and loving her. But due to the flower, not only does Zero have to kill herself, but she has to kill her sisters, because if she doesn't, the flower will simply take control of one of them instead. What I find interesting about the creation of these 5 is not only did they hinder Zero physically, but she also had to shut down her emotions if she wanted to kill them. It doesn't matter if they were her sisters, she still had to put an end to them if it meant saving this world. This world that's treated her so terribly. This world she should really have no reason to care about. At least that's what I thought at first, and then I kinda realized Zero still doesn't give a shit. I know that doesn't really make sense at first because she's literally trying to save the world, but I don't think she's doing all this to save the world. Throughout the game, she kinda revels in slaughtering so many innocent people if it means achieving her goal. But that begs the question, what is her goal? This had me thinking for a while, because why are you trying to save this world you don't give a shit about? And then it hit me. Zero is just a petty bitch. Allow me to elaborate real quick. As we've established, Zero kinda wants to die, and this flower is not letting her. And you're probably thinking, oh, then why doesn't she just kill herself and let the flower do whatever it wants? I think Zero is just so goddamn petty that she isn't content with just dying. She is going to ruin this flower's entire plan and bring it down to the grave with her. Zero is not a tragic noble hero like Hitoshi-san. She's just a certified hater, at least in the beginning of the game. Something I forgot to bring up is Zero learns the only thing capable of killing an intoner is a dragon, which is why throughout the game you're teaming up with a dragon, so you can kill all the other intoners before you have it kill yourself. In this dragon, Michael agreed to help Zero, but he dies in the first 10 minutes of the game because he's a fucking loser. And then he reincarnates to this little bastard, Mikhail. The best way I could describe Mikhail is he loves pissing and shitting himself because he's a literal giant baby dragon. Alongside Mikhail, she also travels alongside these guys, the Disciples. The Disciples were basically the servants of her sisters that she kinda kidnaps after killing them. And they're interesting characters, alright. They're more of your classic Drakengard feel. This guy is voiced by Yuri Lowenthal.
She's dead! She's dead! She's dead! I love you! I love you! What'd you love? You make me sick.
This guy loves getting his balls smashed in. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know why I wrote this on the script. I don't know where I learned this information. But apparently this guy's actually 22 years old, but he had so much sex that he aged by like 50 years. And this guy's just a Chad. I can't put him in any other way. He's just straight up Chad material. I'm gonna be honest, these guys add nothing to the story though. They're just here for sex jokes. But at least they're actually funny. That's more than I could say about the first game's party members.
I surrender.
You what?
I surrender. I came here because I want to join your cause.
Well, hey, guys, this is great! If he wants to be our friend, we don't have to fight or anything!
Well spoken, my winged friend. Shit.
Sure.
But jumping back to Mikhail real quick, I think his dynamic with Zero is one of my favorite aspects of this entire franchise. I just think it's really funny to see Zero, out of all people, have to take care of what's essentially a giant baby. I'm gonna be honest, I kind of felt like Zero at first, where I thought Mikhail was fucking obnoxious. I wanted him dead. But throughout the course of the game, I love this man. And Zero kinda begins to as well. It's really sweet to see. She goes from a pure bloodthirsty revenge quest to wanting a world where Mikhail could genuinely live in peace, playing the new Goku Fortnite season. I just think their development throughout the game is really sweet as he begins to bring out a more human side to Zero's character. Seeing someone so oblivious to the world and how cruel it can be opens Zero's eyes to the more beautiful side of things. Of course she's gonna have to still proceed through her journey, and of course it's gonna lead to more bloodshed. But at least now there's more meaning behind it beyond just petty revenge.
Shit, this barricade's in the way.
Ooh! Let me help! Let me help, Zero!
Go for it. it or I'm gonna...
Bazinga!
Because I liked Zero and Mikhail so much at this point, I was rooting for them to succeed. Also, I kinda didn't want all of humanity to die, that wouldn't have been very funny. And let's just say they don't exactly have the best time by the end. So after Zero finally finishes off the final sister, 1, she's ready to end it all and put an end to the flower for good. But remember how one of Zero's abilities was being able to create more intoners? And remember how the intoners inherited Zero's powers? So yeah, it turns out 1 inherited the ability to create intoners for herself, and she created a new intoner named Brother 1. And yeah, Zero kind of failed to realize this on time, and Brother 1 comes out of nowhere and kills Zero using a sword made out of a dragon's fang. And yeah, that kinda sucks, because now the flower is simply just gonna take control of Brother 1 and kill everybody. The end. But it's okay, you know how these games go, there's 3 more endings. And this game handles the multiple endings pretty differently from the first 2. In the first 2 games, we were just kind of supposed to imply that the multiple endings were more so what-if scenarios, and were just steps to unlocking the true canon ending. But this game says they aren't just what-if scenarios, they're actually completely different timelines. And despite being a prequel, this game doesn't really have a clear-cut timeline that leads into Drakengard. No matter what timeline or ending you look at, there's always a flaw that stops it from being the perfect link to that first game. So we're gonna take a look at the multiple endings, and maybe we'll find out which one exactly leads into Drakengard 1. So the game establishes that the timelines are being documented by an android from the old world named Accord. Accord identifies Zero as something known as a singularity. Singularities are people who are capable of creating new timelines just through their actions. For a fun bit of trivia, Kainai is actually listed as a singularity as well. This was shown through her determination to bring back Nair, which led to the creation of Ending E in Replicant. Anyways, Ending B isn't much better than Ending A. In fact, I'd argue it's even worse, because Zero doesn't even get to 1 before her journey ends. This time she's fighting some random poison monster in the forest, and then Mikhail just dies. But in order to save Mikhail, Zero forms a pact with him. For those of you who don't remember, pacts were that thing in Drakengard 1 where they'd make a deal and then they get like super duper powers and it'd save their life. This could be the one that connects to Drakengard 1, since it establishes the creation of pacts, which were a big feature in that game. But I'm gonna say this isn't really the one because it just feels way too random and way too vague to directly correlate it to the first Drakengard game. Ending C actually does have Zero fighting 1, except during battle Mikhail gets fucking split in half. And so Zero, realizing she doesn't have a dragon to kill herself anymore, just starts vomiting everywhere. I don't know why, but I don't like this one. Also, it's not canon because the flower would have killed everyone in this timeline, and everyone's alive in Drakengard 1. Let's just move on, I don't like this one. Ending D's the last ending, so it's gotta be canon, right? No, I don't think it is. In this one, Zero actually decides to let the flower take control of her, and then once it does, it has a rhythm battle with Mikhail similar to Drakengard 1. While this feels like the most conclusive ending to Drakengard 3 on its own, it doesn't really connect to Drakengard 1, because all the intoners get sealed off, but as we can see in Drakengard 1, there's still an intoner alive. Also, is this thing Zero? Like, I know that's a theory, but it makes sense. I just don't want it to be Zero. That's sad. So I know what you're asking. What is the canon ending then? It's a Drakengard 3 novel that's exclusively Japanese. Oh, why would you do this? This is some Kingdom Hearts type shit.
Mickey! It's Riku! They put bugs in him!
What?
And before we stop talking about this game, there's one major thing we gotta address. If you've heard anything about this game, I think you know where I'm going with this. The Drakengard 3 final boss is one of the most bullshit things I've ever had to do in a video game. For starters, this whole game up until this point has been a hack and slash dragon shooty shoot game, and this boss is a rhythm game. That's already jarring, but okay, fine. I like rhythm games. I aced the Miku Miku 3DS games and Persona Dancing and the Genshin Impact events. I like rhythm games. But this song is 8 entire minutes. That might not sound like a crazy lot at first, but in video game time, that is insane. For reference, that's like the length of a Sonic Heroes level. You know how long Sonic Heroes levels feel? But okay, fine. I've played long songs in rhythm games before. I played the entire Persona 5 credits on like multiple occasions. I can deal with it. But there's no visual indicators on when you're supposed to hit the notes. It tricks you at first. It tricks you. The camera's perfectly fine. And then it starts doing this scrimbolo bimbolo shit that I don't even know. This is the only boss where that is actively easier if you look away. I have never played a boss in a video game where if you close your eyes, it is infinitely easier. You have to go exclusively off of notes. And the timing isn't always perfect. I don't know if it's because I was playing on an emulator and like the frame rate was fucking it up, but I swear to God, I hit that note on like the 7-minute mark and I had to start the entire fucking song over. But that's not all, It gets crazier, it gets goofier, fuck you, Yoko Taro. Just when you think you're done, when the screen fades to black, it should all be over, right? It's all good. Oh look, the cutscene's starting. These bastards threw a note in the fucking cutscene. Who does that? Who puts a note in the cutscene? When have you ever had to time a note in a cutscene in a video game? I don't get it. The song's a bop. The song's real good. It's good like the 72nd time I listen to it. That's good. I love you, Yoko Taro. And the worst part is this was intentional. He was like probably laughing to him. I don't even think he beat it. He shipped the game out. He was like, I don't even know if this is beatable, but it'd sure be funny to watch people suffer. This is the embodiment of a Drakengard moment. So, yeah, that's Drakengard 3, alright, and I like it. I don't think it's quite on par with something like Nier Automata, but honestly, I think the game gets way too much flack. Maybe Drakengard 1 permanently lowered my standards for video games, but I don't know, man, I was having a fun time with this one. The story was interesting, the characters were all entertaining, the jokes were funny, the music was a bop, and hell, even the gameplay was kinda fun at times. From an objective standpoint, yeah, the game isn't amazing, but I still think it's worth playing if you're interested in this series and its lore. It was not only an interesting standalone story, but it really expanded on the world Drakengard 1 set up. The dragons actually felt important, it explained what intoners were, how packs came to be, and the characters actually felt like characters. I think if this game was given the Nier Replicant treatment, I'd honestly kinda like it better than Nier. I just think the game is way better structured than Nier. It didn't make me replay the same thing 4 times if I wanted the true ending, but if they refined the combat to make it even smoother and faster, it could be a blast just blazing through these levels. Another feature I'd really like to see is a definitive ending similar to how Replicant gave us Ending E. I know the Drakengard 3 novel exists, but it just feels weird to me to lock a true ending behind a novel we can't even read outside of Japan. That said, I have no idea how to end videos, so enjoy Peak Fiction in the next one.